I really don't even know what to say, except, wow. Uh, Las Vegas, the track I don't think anyone expected to do anything in the playoffs for this season. First race out in the playoffs. It produced a good race. In fact, it was a great race with a lot of passing, and at the end it just turned into craziness. There's no real word to describe it. But this race was pretty crazy. So I missed most of stage one. When I came home, was still at Harvick was still ahead of Truex, and then Truex got on by a few laps later. But so apparently, during stage one, it looked like it was just gonna be another normal 1.5 mile race, where it's very hard to pass, and you're kind of limited. Not really much happening. But then stage two, the intensity started ramping up, and it started getting crazier. There started to be multi-groove racing, side-by-side racing, passes, comers and goers. At one point in the but before you get to the whole thing, race was crazy. You see in the thumbnail, that's Alex Bowman's car, a top 5 car, I would say. That car finished 19th, and it looks like it came from Martinsville or Richmond or Bristol. How damaged? There's tape everywhere. It's all banged up. That's because he was involved in a late race crash and all that. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Also in this race, there were 12 caution flags. That's some of the most at Las Vegas. I don't know how long, but Vegas isn't normally one to see a lot of yellows. One to see a lot of long green flag runs, of 100 laps, 70 laps, whatever. You get a, green flag pit stop in them. But, and we had long green flag runs, too. Don't get me wrong. It's not like those 12 cautions came over the period of the race. There were long green flag runs, and then the final, the final 20% of the race, we just kept getting yellows and yellows and yellows because, a lot was happening. But also the temperature out there, I think it was 101 degrees at the end of the race, towards the end of the race. That's insane, and that's why the racing was so good. So, if you are a fan of night racing, this is what I can say to try and change you over to be a fan of day racing. Look at the night races that are held at 1.5 mile tracks. I mean, there's not a lot, but look at the night races that are held at tracks like other than short tracks or Daytona. You'll see that those night races normally aren't as great. Kentucky, obviously, you can kind of make, you can make a case for that it's freshly repaved, so it's only going to be one group anyway. But, think about, some of these night race 1.5 mile tracks. They're not Charlotte. Just think back to Charlotte. They're not normally as good as some of them in the day in the extreme heat. Chicagoland was run in extreme heat, and it was the best race of the season because we had comers and goers. You had to, it had to manage your tires. Tire fall off was huge. Here at Vegas, extreme heat, and it produced a fantastic race in my opinion. It's not. I don't think it's a top 5 race on the season, but I think it was a pretty darn good race. I think I could definitely rate it top 10. I actually think I have the list right now. So I have Chicago obviously ranked 1 and then on down. Vegas is around 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th for me. I haven't really decided where to put it yet, but I think it's going to be around Richmond, Loudon, or Indy. So, and by the way, I had put I don't think I said in the Darlington video or the Indy video, but Darlington is now number 10, so it has the last spot inside the top 10. And I put Indianapolis as number 8. I ended up watching the full race through, and I thought it was worthy of a top 10 number 8, kind of late top 10. But and there are always going to be people, and I've seen this where people rate their race, someone will be like, oh yeah, top 10 race, and then someone will be like, oh, because there's only been 10 good races in 2018. But just look at some of the races that we've had, okay? Inside my top 10 I have Chicagoland, the second Bristol race, Watkins Glen, the first Bristol race, Richmond, Loudon, the second Vegas race, Indianapolis, the first Kansas race, and Darlington. Those 10 have proven to be, worthy races to be in the top 10. They were excellent this season. Then just outside, Daytona number 2. That was a pretty good race as well. Just ignore the crashes. You could pass the leader, you could make runs onto the leader, and we had a first-time winner. Phoenix was pretty good as well. At one point, there was a 4-car battle for the lead. The race was only determined by under a second. I mean, it was a pretty good race there as well. Atlanta, you had that tire fall off. There were a lot of lead changes. Much like at Vegas, there were a lot of lead changes in that one. The first Texas race, it was pretty unpredictable as well, and we had a finish that came down to 2 of the big 3 this season. Even the second Pocono race, which was ranked, 15th, that had Harvick and Busch start the backfield. Busch ended up winning the race, and it just being there, I was actually pretty excited by it. It seemed it was actually a pretty good race. Charlotte, the 600, underrated race this season. There was a lot of mid-pack racing, even though Kyle Busch was dominated. A lot of mid-pack racing. The Daytona 500, there was still some pretty good racing there. Even Martinsville, even though Martinsville was kind of the one where, in my opinion, it wasn't what Martinsville should have lived up to. It was still better than some of the races we have, just because it's a short track and all that. But then you have the bad races, which have been extremely bad, and I think that's brought some of them down. Kentucky was extremely bad. That was horrible. Vegas, the first Vegas race, extremely bad. Dover was pretty bad. Talladega was horrible. The first Michigan race was pretty bad. The second Michigan race was not as bad, I don't think. The first Pocono race, that was kind of 50-50 in my opinion. It was kind of Fontana, that was pretty good up until the end when Kyle Busch's crew made the wrong adjustment. Sonoma, the stages really kill at Sonoma. But, otherwise, there are about 15, 16, 17 races that I could say have been pretty darn good this season. And I don't think this season really gets what it deserves to be in terms of, it's not, there haven't been an asinine amount of winners. But once again, there's still been good racing. And as long as there's good racing, I don't care if someone goes out and dominates and wins a lot. The other teams have to get better. And we've been seeing that lately. The last 3 races have been won by Brad Keselowski. Granted, he didn't have the best car those 3 races, but he put himself in position each and every race to steal a victory. And all of them had different parts of it. So at Darlington, we had Larson dominating that race. He did have the best car. He was dominating. He would have won. Some yellows come out, and Keselowski's crew gets Keselowski off pit road in front. Keselowski nails the restart to get away. At Indianapolis, Paul Wolfe plays some strategy to keep Keselowski out a little bit later. He gets fresh tires. The yellow comes out immediately, and he restarts inside the top 10, and he drives up. He gets another lucky yellow, and he drives past Hamlin. And then here at Vegas, his pit crew did a great job on pit road. They got him spots. I think almost every pit stop, that pit crew got him some spots. And they got him up into the lead on multiple occasions. And then even when he fell back, they got him back to the lead. And I think that's what really hurt Truex there, because Truex definitely had the best car today, but him losing the lead on all those pit stops, it hurt him, and that's what kept him out of victory lane. But the race was crazy. Playoff drivers had horrible, and I mean horrible, luck today. Kevin Harvick blows a tire. He's falling back through the field. I just thought his car was going right away. He ended up blowing a tire and nailing the outside wall in turn 2, and Eric Jones got collected in that. Those are 2 playoff drivers right there, both of which out. Kyle Busch was having he was having issues all day long. Not much was going right for Kyle Busch. He kept, he'd fall back. He was up front for, the beginning part of the race, but then once they started getting rubber down the track, he really fell back, and he had some issues. He spun it into the grass stage 3. Luckily, the splitter didn't damage the car to where, his day was done. But he kept in the race. He got a top 10 because of how crazy the ending was. Austin Dillon had started the rear for some changes made to the car. Ryan Blaney got put into the wall by Eric Almirola. Logano hit the wall once or twice. Denny Hamlin, same thing as Kyle Busch, same exact spot, except this time for Hamlin, the splitter dug in and tore the car up, which in my opinion was pretty stupid. Screw the splitter, get rid of it. Chase Elliott was running behind Jamie McMurray. McMurray loses a tire, and just like Eric Jones, he had nowhere to go into the crash, and Chase gets involved. He hit pretty hard. He had some shoulder pain. Hopefully everything's all right there. You don't want to see a driver get hurt, obviously. Kurt Busch was involved in the final caution, involved in the big crash. Who are the other? Jimmy Johnson and Alex Bowman, both involved in the same incident. They start beating around with each other. Both had flat tires for the Hendrick Motorsports cars. I mentioned Kevin Harvick. Martin Truex Jr. had nothing really happen to him. Same with Brad Keselowski. Busch, Harvick, they had their issues. I'm trying to think of some other drivers. Clint Bowyer had his issues all over the place. He was up and down all day, involved in whatever was happening there. Pretty crazy day for him as well. Almirola, I had mentioned, he got into the wall. Logano got into the wall a few times. Larson, he had a flat tire, so he dropped back. A lot happened here at Las Vegas, and a lot towards the playoffs as well. Heading into Richmond, which will be the next playoff race, I think it's Hamlin's down by 20, Jones is down by 19, and then Chase and Jimmy are out by only a handful of points. And I think Bowman's just in, Austin Dillon's in. It's craziness. And to think that Bowman's in and Chase Elliott's out now because of everything that's been happening, that's kind of crazy. And, that's just how unpredictable this race was. Hopefully we could get back to some normalcy here at Richmond. But once again, a short track in the chase, it's normally pretty unpredictable. And then we have the Roval, of all things. This first round, I thought, Richmond was going to be pretty exciting, and then the Roval was going to be unpredictable. My gosh, we might have 3 unpredictable races this first round. Las Vegas, which produced everything. Richmond, a short track. I mean, Chevy did pretty well there earlier in the season. I'll get to Chevy in a little bit, actually, as well. And then, the Roval. No one knows how that's going to go. But speaking of Chevy, they had some great days here at Las Vegas. I don't know if that's a sign of they found speed or if it was just a lucky break, but they had the speed to contend. Not on Martin Truex Jr., but they could have possibly won if they had put themselves in the right positions. Kyle Larson was pretty fast early in the race, running the high lane, had that flat tire. The car kind of never was the same, but he ended up second place here today. And, I'm sure he'll take that second place more than any of the other second place finishes because he probably didn't deserve a second place on this day. Ryan Newman, I think, ended up top 10. Austin Dillon was 11th. And then you have the Hendrick Motorsports cars, which in my opinion, this was the best that most of them have looked this whole season. I don't know if there's any other race where they all looked this good that wasn't like a plate track or a short track. I think this was the best intermediate track. This is the best they've looked at an intermediate track all season. Starting out with Chase Elliott, he was pretty good all day long. He was inside the top 10 at the end of the first stage, and then he got a huge run on Kyle Busch coming to the checkered flag for stage 1, and he drove down to the apron. He was sideways, and he got 5th from Kyle Busch. I mean, it was a pretty impressive pass. It looked pretty cool. Maybe that point will save him in this chase. Who knows? Since he's outside, it might save him to advance to the next round of the playoffs. I don't know. And then the next stage, stage 2, he was a little bit further back, but he made the same move where he came off the corner and made them like 3 wires. He got 2 spots for 1 there. And then when he got crashed, he was running top 10. So it's not like he was running back in 15th and that happened. He was running top 10, I think 7th or 8th. McMurray blew that tire, and obviously Chase was collected. It was just such a tough break there. He had a good car. And then late in the race, Alex Bowman finished stage number 1 in third position, so he got a good amount of points there. Stage 2, he finished inside the top 10, and I think he was 9th. And then he was running up inside the top 10. He had an uncontrolled tire, remember, so he had to go to the back, and then he started fighting his way forward, and then he somehow got up inside the top 10 again, and then as he was running in the top 10 on restart, he made contact with the outside wall, and then Johnson came up into Kurt Busch, I think, and then got into Bowman, and Bowman went down to Johnson. They were all crazy. Then Bowman blew a tire, and they got that car repaired. They got back onto the lead lap with a free pass. He ended up 19th, so that's a pretty good point. So he's actually in the top 12 right now in the playoffs. And then Jimmy Johnson, this was probably his best race of the season. I think he had top 3 speed in that number 48 car, and he ended up wrecked in the 22nd position. Once again, that team did not give up. They repaired the car. They got back onto the racetrack and just tried to get whatever they could. But, I mean, it was pretty insane. I mean, Jimmy Johnson, the guy who I think everyone has eliminated, most people, I don't know if everyone, but most people have eliminated in round number 1, almost got a top 3 finish and was almost about 10-15 points to the good heading into the next 2 races of the round. I mean, Jimmy Johnson had a pretty good race here today, and it sucks that he got crashed because I would have loved to see him get another good finish. I mean, I felt bad for him. Obviously, being a past Dale Jr. fan, I do have some soft spot for Hendrick Motorsports now. I kind of want them to succeed more than most other teams. Like I want them to succeed more than say like Stewart Haas or Penske or something. So obviously, I like Hendrick Motorsports, and I want Jimmy, Chase, Byron, and Bowman to perform. But I mean, like for some reason this season, I feel like I've migrated more towards Jimmy Johnson than any other Hendrick cars. Like if Jimmy Johnson wrecks, I'm kind of like, well, that sucks. That he's had such horrible luck this season. At Darlington, I was like, man, he's had horrible luck. Like god dang, Jimmy just can't catch a break. And now here at Vegas, none of the Hendrick cars catch a break. It's gonna look like on the stat sheet a day where it was just another mediocre 2018 day for Hendrick. Their best car was 19th, but in the end, easily 3 of their cars could have been top 10 and 2 of their cars could have been top 5. I think Bowman and Jimmy had top 5 speed, and Chase at some points in the race also had top 5 speed. I think, if they could have finished this race, I think all 3 could have ended up inside the top 10. Byron, the non-chaser, we're not talking about him. He got involved in the crash as well, but he was running mid-pack. Obviously, he's probably not getting the same equipment that the 88, the 48, and the 9 are. I would have to guess at this point. Because he's not in the chase, obviously, why give him better equipment than someone who's in the chase? You kind of want Bowman, Jimmy, and Chase to advance as far as they can. And so far, they have the speed. The big question, though, is this a fluke, or is this something that Chevy or Hendrick has found? Because 3 of their cars are running pretty well. So we'll look forward to Richmond. Short track where Hendrick ran pretty well. Chase got second earlier in the season. I think Jimmy got top 10. Bowman hung around mid-pack, same with Byron. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Richmond goes. I think it was Bowman said he was going to run pretty well at Richmond. I think he said that on Twitter, so we'll see how that goes. We'll see if he can actually do that. And then we got the Roval, which is going to be unpredictable. For all we know, 8 cars could finish the race there. I mean, it's going to be crazy. But Vegas, I'll give that like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Maybe not a 9, maybe like an 8 out of 10. I felt like it was a pretty good race. I would have loved if those late yellows didn't come out. I felt like the late yellows, all those crash drivers. I don't like seeing a wreck fest, but I think before all the wreck festy stuff, I felt like the race was pretty great. I mean, at the end of the race, what was it? One of the restarts, like one of the late restarts. I think it was the one. Was it the one before Kyle spin or before Denny spin? I don't remember. But Kyle Larson made a 3-wide move into turn 1 and made it work. That was pretty badass by Larson. I have to admit, that was a pretty cool move that Larson pulled. But, and I forgot to mention, and Chevy Jarvis, McMurray was running fantastic. He was running the outside groove. He was a top 5 car easily there, too, and they blew the tire after getting into the outside. Well, that's a tough break for him. That's just the story of his season, too. I feel like he's had some horrible luck this season. He probably could have easily made the chase if he didn't have that luck. But, I felt like the Las Vegas race was pretty good. As I say, short track racing at Vegas, like what the heck? And Vegas was the wild card. It's only Vegas, man. Like what the heck? Earlier in the season, there were 11 lead changes, and the race was not memorable at all. In fact, the thing I remember from that race was Harvick's encumbered windshield. And now we go to this Vegas race. I was full on expecting, I'm not going to lie here, I was full on expecting this race to not be any better than the one earlier in the season, but the heat proved me wrong because all 3 races this weekend here at Vegas were good. The truck race was fantastic, the Xfinity race was fantastic, and this race was fantastic. I mean, there was not much more Vegas could have wanted out of a race weekend. And I think it kind of proves that, maybe they should kind of keep this here, keep it in the daytime, and hope that the heat comes back. Maybe not as big as this heat was, but, obviously the heat's going to impact what fans come to the track. Some fans aren't going to want to sit out in 101 degree heat to watch a race for 4 hours, because this race went 4 hours long. I mean, it went until like 7 o'clock. And overshadowed by all this, Brad Keselowski won his 3rd race in a row this season. That is now the 3rd driver to win 3 races in a row this season, and this is the only time in NASCAR history where 3 drivers have won 3 races in a row. So that just shows something there. Kevin Harvick won 3 in a row earlier in the season, same with Kyle Busch, and now Brad Keselowski has done it, and he delivered Team Penske their 500th win across all motorsports. Congratulations to them. That's a pretty big accomplishment, and Keselowski got 3 of the last ones, so I mean, that's pretty cool. That's cool to see Penske get that. That's a huge milestone for them, so I hope they enjoy it. But, Keselowski, he's established himself as a potential Final Four favorite. I mean, even Truex. I thought Truex, I thought they were kind of hitting a little valley that they weren't going to be able to get out of. But, man, they came to Vegas with the speed. They had the fastest car and probably could have won without a few of these late yellows. I mean, it was pretty cool to see Truex running well. I think he led the most laps, which was like 96. Also, pretty cool, the guy who led the most laps only led like 96. I think that was Truex. He led like 96 laps. It was less than 100. And I think there were like 4 drivers that led over like 20 laps or something. And then I think Harvick led like 14 or something. And there were 23 lead changes, as I mentioned. So a lot of different leaders, 12 yellows. There was one very controversial moment. I think it was with 6 to go, a debris yellow was called. But that was immediately after the restart where Bowman and Johnson and Kurt were all beating and banging into the wall or whatever. I think Bowman and Johnson blew tires, and then like 5 cars were in the wall. I mean, it was crazy. If there was not debris out there, I would have been shocked. The fact that they threw the yellow, I mean, I'll let it slide. If it was maybe like 2014, 2015, I would probably be a little more skeptical than that because Keselowski had pulled away to a nice gap. But, I mean, you just think about it. Cars were in the wall. Cars were blowing tires. I'm not very skeptical about it, honestly. I mean, look at NASCAR this season. They've only over 27 races. They've only thrown 9 debris yellows. That's a third. Like that's 1/3 debris yellow a race. I mean, it's not like they've been manipulating every race with the debris yellows. If there were debris yellows every race, then maybe I would say, well, that's kind of weird, But since they've only thrown 9 over 27 races, and since there were cars in the wall and everything, there was like contact at restart, I'm not shocked that there was probably debris out there. It's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type of things. You go back to Michigan, where Ty Dillon ran over a battery, and then hit the wall hard. people are like, well, damn, NASCAR, why didn't you throw a debris yellow? Like, come on now. Harvick was even like, man, that debris was sitting there for a whole lap. Why didn't they throw it? And then, they get here and they throw a yellow late in the race, and people are like, well, what the heck, NASCAR? Like, I mean, I don't think they're really gonna ever win with one of those calls like that. I mean, in my opinion, if you think there's debris out there, throw it, but don't be like, oh, plastic bag, let's throw it for debris. If there's some sort of metal out in the racetrack, throw the damn yellow. I mean, come on now. I mean, one person that I really was annoyed at for this, and Chase Elliott fan, you probably know him. I'm not even going to say his name, but you know him. Chase Elliott fan, popular YouTuber in the NASCAR community. RR, there you go. That's all I have to say. On Twitter, was like, oh man, what I'm trying to remember. Was he like LMFAO, stuff like that for the debris? Like, oh, they didn't show it. So since they didn't show it, then that's no debris yellow or something. That's like saying if there wasn't an angle of that debris at Michigan and Ty Dillon just hit the wall, then there was no debris on the racetrack. Like I mean, with his viewpoint, if NBC doesn't show the debris, that means that there was no debris. Now, NBC is not required to show the debris. Well, I wish they would, so that every time, so that people stop with the whole, oh, NASCAR throwing fake debris yellows here, because they've been long past that. These last 2 seasons, they've been past that. But I really wish NBC would, but NASCAR can't force NBC. Show us, we're going to hold up this debris for 5 seconds. You have to get a cameraman on the guy who's holding up the debris. Like, you have to show this. Like, they can't just, that's all up to NBC if they want to show the debris or not. So for someone to say, well, since they didn't show the debris, that means it's not there. No, he said something like, I'm just going to assume then that it's not there. Like, that's kind of the reason why NASCAR's dying, okay? Like, if you can't make up your mind or something, like at Michigan, we were all critiquing NASCAR for not throwing a debris yellow fast enough. And then they throw a debris yellow because there's probably debris on the racetrack and they don't want someone to blow a fucking tire and hit the wall like Brad Keselowski leading the race by 5 seconds, blow a fucking tire and ruin his race with 6 to go. But instead, we're all like, well, NASCAR, why are you throwing debris yellow late in the race? Like, that's kind of stupid in my opinion. Let them do, what they think is best. Obviously, they got critique over that Michigan thing, so they want to throw debris yellows faster, and that's fine, because, god damn it, I don't want someone's race to be ruined by a piece of debris that's on the racetrack with 6 laps to go, and then someone hits it, and it ruins their whole race, and then they're out of the playoffs because of that. Like, that's kind of stupid in my opinion, that people are really mad that, they threw that debris yellow for no reason, even though there was probably a reason. There's probably debris somewhere on that racetrack. Wherever it was, I bet you it was a big chunk of metal because 2 drivers blew damn tires. Jimmy Johnson and Alex Bowman were riding around on rims. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, NASCAR. That's all I have to say for you, because I'm sorry that you have to deal with that, because, there was probably debris. Whatever. I'm done with that. But moving on to Richmond short track racing, and then the Roval road course racing to end out the first round of the playoffs, and we'll see who gets eliminated. So Las Vegas, good race there. Probably top 10 race on the season. So I thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys for the next video.